It's not just a new season, it's an entire integration of 40 plus weapons within Warzone. So what weapons, what loadouts should you be using here for season 1? Today we're breaking down my pick for the top 10 loadouts and what you should be using of Vanguard weapons, of even Black Ops Cold War weapons, and everything within Warzone. So today, as we go along, drop your thoughts down below. What weapons are you thriving the most with within Warzone Pacific, and anything you think we should add to this list that maybe doesn't quite make it, anything you greatly agree with, whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on the video, and of course, if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. We're getting all things Warzone, all things Vanguard. We got a lot of stuff up on deck still that you do not want to miss. So if you're part of that nearly 70% of viewers that are not subscribed and like to help us out on that road to 500,000 subscribers, I'd love to have you in the community. And finally, my friends over at G Fuel still have code Espresso bumped up to 30% off your entire order for one more day. So if you guys want to get a restock, try anything out for the first time, whatever the case, now is as best a time as any. Link in the description below. That said, let's jump into the top 10 loadouts and what you should be using. Okay, so for a lot of the top 10, we actually are starting to see some Vanguard weapons be the predominantly best weapons that you can be using in game, but there also are still some that you'll see that are from Black Ops Cold War that are still actually making their way through. Now, the thing that's really important to note is that right now, these top 10 aren't a definitive top 10 in terms of these are the only 10 you should be using. The nice part is that with this integration, while of course bugged and having tons of problems elsewhere, the weapon balance right now still has a healthy ecosystem of what you can actually use and do well with. I saw plenty of people in my games using things like modern warfare weaponry, which is again kind of removed from that sort of meta that we saw within this past year. So you have a good host of a ton of different weapons, but the ones that I absolutely love are what we're talking about here today. Starting out firstly, the Automaton, and this has been one of my go-to weapons so far within the Vanguard integration, and for great reason. It can absolutely pack a punch. It's kind of like, I think, a better version of the Kilo, and whenever we saw that in the sort of meta of modern warfare. Fast firing, doesn't necessarily do the best damage by comparison to other rifles, but gets the job done, is reliable, and is very easy to control. So for this, I end up running the MX silencer. Another thing that I've been running on it is the F8 stabilizer, but with wanting to stay off the radar a little bit, I've been playing around with this silencer because you only lose aim down sight speed. Right now, we don't have anything like the sort of GRU suppressors, agency suppressors, monolithic suppressors, where it adds anything like damage range, but at least in this case, you're still gaining accuracy and sound suppression, whereas the other Mercury silencer does actually drop off that damage range a little bit, so you do hurt yourself a little bit in that capacity. The F8 stabilizer, if you don't mind being on the radar, is actually what I'd probably go with, adding that damage range, but again, I like to have a little bit of that silence to it. The Anastasia sniper barrel also is the one that I'd be going here at this, adding bullet velocity and range as well as accuracy for a slight penalty of hip fire, which I'm not hip firing often with this thing. I want to be pinpoint precise. Then my go-to optic here across the board for almost all of these in the Vanguard weaponry category is the G16 2.5 times scope here. It adds a little bit of magnification, adds accuracy, and a little bit of recoil control for slight penalties in the ADS speed category. Now, a lot of people recently are switching over to the 3.5 times scope, adding a little bit more recoil control, but for me, I just like the 2.5. Then the Anastasia padded is what I go to here in terms of that stock for this, adding accuracy and recoil control during sustained fire, which with the fire rate of this thing, that comes pretty quickly. It hits that threshold of sustained fire relatively fast. Plus that flinch resistance, definitely nice. Tight grip, I end up running for that accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. The one that you're going to see basically on every Vanguard weapon is also fully loaded. I love the fact that I can drop in no matter what point, whether it's late game, the first loadout here, and I can have full ammo across all of my Vanguard weapons. That's probably my favorite change out of the 10 attachment system here at this in Warzone. But anyways, the polymer grip is again one you'll see quite a bit because it adds flinch resistance and accuracy and recoil during sustained fire, and for no cons really. So that's something that controlling weapons in Vanguard can sometimes be a little bit tough, but that's where we're going with it. Then I end up running the 75 round magazine for the added ammo capacity. I don't necessarily need that extra damage of the Klauser rounds. I think that this is perfectly fine with the 75 round. Lengthened is again another staple here at this, adding that bullet velocity. And finally, the Carver foregrip is one you'll see quite a bit as well, adding, I think, the most recoil control and hip fire accuracy out of any of the other options here with it, so can't go wrong. Often paired with a lot of my rifles if I'm playing predominantly for sort of run and gun where I want to get into the action in both long and close quarters is my MP40 here at this. The PPSH recently got a little bit of a nerf that takes it down a couple of pegs legs. Otherwise, that would be definitely my main SMG here within Warzone right now, but for the time being, it is the MP40. And this is one that's a little bit interesting. Starting right off the rip here, actually just foregoing everything else, right now there is, I think it's bugged. I don't think it actually adds anything, but the placebo effect makes me think, oh, I should definitely use this just in case. If you take a look, the Space Issue Blueprint, which is in the Battle Pass, has the Vital perk on it. Except if you go over to the Creator class, the Gunsmith here, and actually take a look at your perks, Vital isn't actually available on it. So I think this is just placebo. It's just a perceived thing where, just like the Assassin perk on the Automaton, which is actually now in a bundle even, which is hilarious, it's just mislabeled. To me, I run it just because, well, what if it does work? But anyways, I run the Silencer again here, adding accuracy and sound suppression. No damage range decrease on that. The Crosslink 317mm barrel is the one to go with here with this. The Slate Reflector, I don't think you need an optic, but I like having that pinpoint precision, and everything else is kind of intrusive. The Nidar Model 47, not really my cup of tea. The Slate Reflector just gives me that red dot and I'm all for it. The Krosnick 300mm folding stock, again, adds sprint to fire and movement speed, which is absolutely something that I want to kit this out for. Using it with sort of bulkier rifles here on a lot of my classes, I like to have a weapon that I can swap to and get around the map pretty fast with. That adds that movement speed. Again, Vital, not really there, but if I were to actually run something that is, I'd probably be running Perfectionist here on that. Then in the perk 2 category, the only thing that we really don't run in terms of fully loaded, because you start with pistol ammo anyway, is Quick on this. Quick allows for added sprint speed, and you zoom whenever you have this on, and the MP40 kitted out for mobility. The Polymer Grip, again, adding flinch resistance, accuracy, and recoil control during sustained fire. The 64 round mag, I think, is all you need. The damage rounds sacrifice a little bit too much in terms of that fire rate for my liking, so that's something that I just run the 64. Lengthened, again, normal. Carver, again, normal. The next class that's kind of been dropping down the ranks a little bit here for me, but is still phenomenal, I think, is this loadout that I can end up getting Ghost on right off the rip here. The Bar is one that is honestly a phenomenal weapon, especially with the BMG rounds, though the recoil can get a little bit crazy. It's definitely suggested, I think, if you take it slow, maybe tap fire if you have the opportunity to, but if you can control that recoil, it's absolutely going to tear through your enemies. For this, I end up running the F8 stabilizer for that accuracy and damage range. Again, you can run the MX silencer if you'd like. Then I run the 27 2B barrel. Now, this is a very back and forth between the 30-inch and the 27-inch because they both end up adding control, but the 27-inch adds damage range, and that's something that is huge within Warzone. So I take that one over that, sacrifice a little bit of sprint to fire speed. Then I run the 2.5 optic as per normal, the Chariot WR stock for accuracy, flinch resistance, recoil control, and aiming stability. Hard scope as a perk for accuracy and recoil during sustained ADS. Fully loaded, of course, Polymer Grip, again, as per norm. The BMG rounds, though, is what makes this the weapon that it is. You can end up running either the 30 or the 40 round mag here at this. Previously, it was only the 20 and the 30, so you get another 10 shots here based off of the sort of upgrade that we saw to ammo on the 9th, the day after 24-hour early access ended up concluding. But this adds bullet velocity and range, damage, which is the huge part here at this, bullet penetration, and added more ammo capacity to it. Lengthened again, and Carver foregrip, your standards here with that. But if you're running Ghost with this right off the rip, this is absolutely the class that I think you should be running here at this. The F8 stabilizer and Wilkie W4 stub, the hair trigger for fire rate, hip fire accuracy, and sprint to fire speed, the 30 Russian short, which adds damage, and then the shot shell, which makes it snake shot akimbos with the right perk here of akimbo and fully loaded. And then I end up using the fabric grip here at this so that you can end up getting that extra hip fire and sprint to fire speed. The aim down sight speed is inconsequential, obviously, because we're using akimbo here on this, but adding that sprint to fire and hip fire is really the only time you'll see it in terms of both of these here out of all of these. So I'm totally cool with the fabric grip on that one. That is my go-to get Ghost right off the rip class, though I haven't really been using it a whole ton. I've been favoring more so either the NZ or the Automaton plus an MP40. Then, talking about the NZ, let's just jump right into that one here, because the NZ is a phenomenal weapon. One of my favorites. I'd say 1 or 2 on the list here right now. The Automaton coming very close, if not tying with it. But for this, I end up running the MX silencer again, just to stay off the radar a little bit, but not really sacrifice too much in that damage range. The Orb Weaver 360mm BC is what you want here with this. Adding some accuracy and reduced scope sway and gun bob, which is huge because it does like to bounce around a lot. The 2.5 optic, again, my go-to. The Orb Weaver E-Pack adds recoil control, recovery, accuracy, and flinch resistance, but If you don't want to sacrifice so much in the movement department, you can use the Mark III SC, which adds recoil control when mounted, crouched, or prone, plus also offers that additional accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. So it really comes down to which you feel is better for your playstyle. Then I run the perk of acrobatic because there's not really a whole lot in the perk 1 category for this that adds a lot to your gun and the sort of overall engagement you can take, but it adds a little bit more speed there. Fully loaded offers, of course, that full ammo right off the rip. The polymer grip, again, sort of standard. The Carver 4 grip and lengthened standard. But here's the one that actually we talked about that I just started using because there's really no reason not to. If you take a look at it, after the sort of update that we saw to some weapons in their magazines, with different weapons in the Vanguard armory set, we had the rounds per magazine increased by about 10. And so therefore this fast mag was only 20 beforehand. And so it really wasn't something you wanted to take because you didn't have as much ammo. But if you take a look at the standard NZ, well, it's 30 rounds, so you really don't lose anything outside of that minimal ADS speed difference, which again, it is minimal. You don't lose anything by adding a fast mag attachment here to it. So to me, I'll take that ADS penalty and where I can make that up elsewhere and take that faster reload speed in engagements where I definitely could use that. So that's something I end up running now, the 30 fast mag. Don't think you can go wrong with that one. Now, we end up running normally on this build, my MP40 as well, but also another weapon that can absolutely pack a punch up close, but probably a little bit more for close quarter situations is the combat shotgun that we've talked about beforehand. For this, I end up running the 16 break here for accuracy, the sawed-off barrel for that wider pellet spread and damage, as well as movement speed, then the adjustable stock for some hip fire and sprint to fire speed stuff. Vital, which is absolutely huge, increases that torso damage. Fully loaded, can't go wrong there again. The pine tar grip I end up running on this for recoil control and hip fire accuracy because I'm not aiming down sight as much here with a shotgun as I would be, say, an automaton or something like that. Then I run the 7-round drum mag. That's all I really need, I think. The incendiary shells, if you really want to be toxic with it, you can do that as well. And then also the pistol grip for sprint to fire speed and hip fire accuracy. Now, the final weapon we'll talk about in terms of mainline sort of Vanguard weaponry is the PPSH. This, even though it did get nerfed, is still pretty solid, but it's more solid for close quarters. It loses that damage at a distance pretty quickly. For this, I end up running the F8 stabilizer, the 300mm barrel, the Kovaleskaia skeletal stock for that sprint to fire and movement speed, fleet to allow me to have some extra weapon swap quickness and movement speed, which is huge. Fully loaded, of course, giving me all the ammo I need right off the rip. The leather grip I use for aim down sight and aiming stability, though again, the polymer grip still is a phenomenal choice here. Just kind of wanted to deviate a little bit from that. Then I end up running the 71-round drum mag for that extra ammo capacity. There are 30 Russian short mags. Too little ammo here for me, I think, so I don't take that, even though it offers a little bit more damage. Lengthened as an ammo perk, and then I've been running either the hand stop or the Carver 4 grip. Personally, I think the Carver 4 grip may be your best bet, though. Now, as strange as it seems here, there actually are a couple of weapons that are actually, I still think, in the top 10 here that are Black Ops Cold War weapons. For that, starting out with the C58, we've talked about this plenty of times, so we can breeze kind of right through this. Though you only get 5 attachments here, you can still make it count. You have the Agency Suppressor, the Task Force Barrel, Axial Arms 3x Optic, Field Agent Grip, and the 55-round drum mag as well. This offering a little bit more in terms of that control because the C58 does like to bounce. Normally, I'd say take the EM2 over top of the C58, but the EM2 just got eviscerated in the most recent patch notes. So this is your better bet here now after that update, so definitely give that a shot. And then in terms of another weapon that may surprise you, the XM4 was actually one that was pretty solid as of recently as well. Has a little bit more of that mobility factor in terms of a rifle and can give you a little bit more maybe in terms of variety for that build, but I end up, of course, running, as always, the Agency, Task Force, 3x Optic, Field Agent, and the 60-round mags. Very similar to the C58, just comes down to preference here with that, but both of those still from Black Ops Cold War, reigning not necessarily supreme, but in the contention, in the running here. They're in the fight for that top 10. Now, the final weapon that I want to end this video on here is one that I think is a wild card. We talked about this before the integration even, where it definitely has the potential and is probably right now on the sort of just edge teetering of the top 10 here, is the BREN. Now, what makes this insane is the barrel and the magazine that you can have for this. For those that play around with the bar and the 50 BMG rounds here with that, you know that those pack a punch, but this takes it to the next step, because if you end up running this build, you will absolutely fry through enemies, because again, the barrel is also what's important, because the Queen's 705mm Royal barrel adds bullet velocity, accuracy, reduced scope sway, and gun bob, and the damage does not diminish over range. So instead of adding damage where it does as opposed to within Vanguard's MP, this will keep that highest damage property value no matter what distance you're shooting at, which is insane to consider. So toss on a silencer or the F8 stabilizer with that, throw in the 2.5 optic. This Queen's Model 11 stock adds accuracy, recoil control, and flinch resistance, which is huge. Sleight of hand to allow you to get into those gunfights a little quicker. The polymer grip, the carbon foregrip, and lengthened as your ammunition, plus those BMG rounds. You are going to be frying with this. So that said, that's my top 10 picks here for the best weapons within Warzone right now and the loadouts that you should be using. So that said, let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of this? Are you guys liking some of these builds? Maybe not so much. Have you guys tried out any of these? Whatever the case may be, drop your thoughts down below. But if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like on the video. And of course, if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Warzone, all things Vanguard, whatever the case may be. We'll keep you the day with everything. So that said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.